Forced.
Forced.
Oh, hello, said Eileen, with forced brightness.
The plane had to make a forced landing in a field.
The forced repatriation of thousands of refugees.
Forced entry.
Forced entry.
The police found no signs of forced entry.
Forced labour.
Forced labor.
2 million suffered imprisonment or forced labour.
Force feed.
Force feed.
Forceful.
Forceful.
He gained a reputation as a forceful member of the party.
A forceful attack on government policy.
The president hasn't been forceful enough in changing the judicial system. Government should adopt a more forceful approach to improve the environment.
Force majeure.
Force majeure.
Forceps.
Forceps.
A pair of forceps.
Forcible.
Forcible.
The forcible overthrow of the government.
Signs of forcible entry into the building.
Forcibly.
Forcibly.
The police threatened to have protesters forcibly removed.
The case was forcibly put by the Speaker.
Ford.
Ford.
For.
For.
Environmental issues came to the fore in the 1980s.
The case brought to the fore a lot of racial tensions.
For.
For.
The enemy had been forewarned.
Her forenames. A horse's forelegs.
His forehead.
Forearm.
Forearm.
Forebear.
Forebear.
Foreboding.
Foreboding.
She waited for news with a grim sense of foreboding.
Forecast.
Forecast.
The weather forecast is good for tomorrow.
The company's annual sales forecast.
Rain was forecast for the weekend.
The Federal Reserve Bank forecasts that the economy will grow by 2% this year.
Forecaster.
Forecaster.
The weather forecaster.
Economic forecasters think that the stock market is set to fall.
Forecastle.
Forecastle.
Foreclose.
Foreclose.
Building societies may foreclose on a mortgage if payments are not kept up. Building societies may foreclose on a mortgage if payments are not kept up.
Housing foreclosures.
Forecourt.
Forecourt.
Foredoomed.
Foredoomed.
Forefather.
Forefather.
What would our forefathers have thought?
200 years ago, our forefathers established this nation.
Forefinger.
Forefinger.
Forefoot.
Forefoot.
Forefront.
Forefront.
The company has always been at the forefront of science and technology.
Prison conditions have been pushed to the forefront of public debate.
Fear of unemployment was at the forefront of everyone's minds.
Foregather.
Foregather.
Forego. Forgo.
Foregoing.
Foregoing.
The foregoing examples illustrate this point.
The foregoing helps to explain these results.
Foregone conclusion.
Foregone conclusion.
The election result was a foregone conclusion. Foreground.
Foreground.
There were 3 figures in the foreground.
Education has been very much in the foreground recently.
Forehand.
Forehand.
Forehead.
Forehead.
Foreign.
Foreign.
Foreign students.
Can you speak any foreign languages? I thought she sounded foreign.
The success of foreign companies in various industries.
Transactions in foreign currencies. America's foreign policy.
Foreign competition provides consumers with a greater variety of goods.
Our budget for foreign aid.
The Chinese foreign minister.
The language of finance is quite foreign to me.
Aggression is completely foreign to his nature.
Cells that are designed to attack and destroy foreign bodies.
Foreign affairs. Foreign affairs.
Foreigner.
Foreigner.
Some of the local people are suspicious of foreigners.
Foreign exchange.
Foreign exchange.
The dollar is expected to fall in the foreign exchange markets.
Foreign exchange earned through exports.
The school organizes a foreign exchange to France.
Foreign office.
Foreign office.
Foreign secretary. Foreign secretary.
Foreknowledge.
Foreknowledge.
Foreleg.
Foreleg.
Forelock.
Forelock.
Foreman.
Foreman.
Foremost.
Foremost.
One of the country's foremost authorities on chemical warfare.
Rostropovich was long considered the world's foremost cellist.
Sharpton was foremost among the protesters.
Economic concerns are foremost on many voters' minds.
Forename.
Forename.
Forensic.
Forensic.
Forensic experts found traces of blood in the car.
A career in forensic science.
A forensic pathologist.
Forensics. Forensics.
Foreplay.
Foreplay.
Forerunner.
Forerunner.
Babbage's engine was the forerunner of the modern computer.
Foresee.
Foresee.
I've put your name on the list and I don't foresee any problems.
The disaster could not have been foreseen.
Few analysts foresaw that oil prices would rise so steeply.
No one foresaw what he was planning.
Foreseeable.
Foreseeable.
The situation is likely to continue for the foreseeable future.
There is a possibility of water shortages in the foreseeable future.
The judge found that it was not foreseeable that the fuel would catch fire.
Foreseeable risk.
Foreshadow.
Foreshadow.
The revolution foreshadowed an entirely new social order.
Foreshore.
Foreshore.
Foreshortened.
Foreshortened.
Viewed from high up, their bodies were oddly foreshortened.
A foreshortened career.
Foresight.
Foresight.
It was an example of the authorities' lack of foresight. Luckily, I'd had the foresight to get in plenty of food. Foreskin.
Foreskin.
Forest.
Forest.
Much of Scandinavia is covered in dense forest.
A tropical forest.
The danger of forest fires.
Forestall.
Forestall.
A measure intended to forestall further attacks.
Forested.
Forested.
Heavily forested terrain.
Forester.
Forester.
Forestry.
Forestry.
Foretaste.
Foretaste.
2 wins at the start of the season were a foretaste of things to come.
Foretell.
Foretell.
The birth of Christ foretold by prophets.
Forethought.
Forethought.
No one had the forethought to bring a map.
Foretold. Foretold.
Forever.
Forever.
I wanted that moment to last forever. Many valuable works of art were lost forever.
Once built, stone walls last forever.
It took forever to clean up after the party. The meeting seemed to go on forever and a day. He's forever making comments about my weight.
The road just went on forever.
Forewarn.
Forewarn.
We'd been forewarned of the dangers of travelling at night.
Forewoman.
Forewoman.
Forward.
Forward.
Forfeit.
Forfeit.
By being absent from the trial, he forfeited the right to appeal.
She was fined £3,000 and ordered to forfeit her car.
The company's property may even be forfeit.
Forfeiture.
Forfeiture.
Refusal to sign meant forfeiture of property and exile.
Foregather.
Foregather.
Forgave.
Forgave.
Forge.
Forge.
In 1776, the United States forged an alliance with France.
The two women had forged a close bond.
Back in the 1980s, they were attempting to forge a new kind of rock music.
Someone stole my credit card and forged my signature.
A forged passport. Crowds of people forged through the streets towards the embassy.
He forged into the lead in the fourth set.
Her speech wasn't going down too well, but she forged on.
Jo's forging ahead with her plans to write a film script.
Forger.
Forger.
Forgery.
Forgery.
The painting was a very clever forgery.
Forget.
Forget.
I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name.
I know you told me, but I forgot. What happened that day will never be forgotten.
Carl says he forgot about our date.
She forgot all about their anniversary.
I forgot that there's a speed limit here.
How can you forget where you've parked the car? He's someone who never forgets a face.
Oh yes, I was forgetting she was pregnant.
Did you remember to post that letter? Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Give me your phone number before I forget. Someone's forgotten to turn off their headlights.
He meant to invite Monica, but he clean forgot.
Oh no, I've forgotten my wallet.
Forget him, he's not worth it.
At my age, I think I can forget fashion.
After a while, you'll forget you're wearing contact lenses.
I'll never be able to forget about the accident.
Don't forget about your old friends when you go off to college, okay?
You can't afford to forget your relationship with your husband.
We'll have to forget about going on holiday.
If we can't get any funding, we might as well forget the whole thing.
You'll have to pay for the packaging and transportation costs, not forgetting airport taxes. You'll have to pay for the packaging and transportation costs, not forgetting airport taxes.
Lisa forgot herself and reached out to touch his knee. Lisa forgot herself and reached out to touch his knee. Often he would forget himself in his work for hours.
We need bread, milk, and eggs. Don't forget.
Don't forget to lock up when you leave.
But don't forget that you have to pay interest on the loan.
Don't forget, I'll be home late tonight. Don't forget your sandwiches.
Sorry I didn't phone. Forget it. I'm not coming with you, so forget it.
Can you lend me $10? Forget it. No way.
If you're thinking of getting Roy to help, you can forget it. What did you say? Nothing. Just forget it.
I'll never forget the look on his face when he opened the door.
Aren't you forgetting that you're already married?
I forget what he said exactly, but it was very rude.
I forget the name of the street, but it's the first on the left.
I'm the boss around here, and don't you forget it. Forgetful.
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 Forget-me-not.
Forget-me-not.
Forgettable.
Forgettable.
He'd had a role in 1 or 2 forgettable movies.
Forgivable.
Forgivable.
It was an easily forgivable mistake.
Forgive.
Forgive.
I've tried to forgive him for what he said.
He never forgave her for walking out on him.
If anything happened to the kids, I'd never forgive myself.
I'm really sorry. It's okay. You're forgiven.
God forgives us our sins. He didn't look the sort of man to forgive and forget.
Forgive me, but I don't think that is relevant.
Forgive me for saying so, but that's nonsense.
Forgive my phoning you so late.
You could be forgiven for thinking football is a religion here.
Saudi Arabia's decision to forgive the debt owed by the poorest Islamic countries. Saudi Arabia's decision to forgive the debt owed by the poorest Islamic countries.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
He never admitted his guilt or asked for forgiveness. Forgiving.
Forgiving.
My father was a kind and forgiving man.
Forgo.
Forgo.
I had to forgo lunch.
Forgot.
Forgot. Forgotten.
Forgotten.
A forgotten corner of the churchyard.
Fork.
Fork.
Put the knives and forks on the table.
The North Fork of the Sacramento River.
Take the left fork, then go straight on.
The path forked off in 2 directions.
Fork left at the bottom of the hill.
He forked some bacon into his mouth.
In November, the soil should be forked over.
I had to fork out £600 on my car when I had it serviced.
We don't want to have to fork out for an expensive meal.
The arena won't be finished until private donors fork out more money. Forked.
Forked.
Snakes have forked tongues.
Forked lightning.
Forked lightning.
Forkful.
Forkful.
Huge forkfuls of food.
Forklift truck.
Forklift truck.
Forklift upgrade. Forklift upgrade. We had to choose between an expensive forklift upgrade and keeping our old machines.
Forlorn.
Forlorn.
A forlorn figure sitting all by herself. Anna sat with a bowed head and spoke in a forlorn voice.
The house looked old and forlorn.
The forlorn hope of finding a peace formula.
Form 1040.
Form 1040.
Form 1099.
Form.
Form.
A severe form of cancer.
The bicycle is an environment-friendly form of transport.
The art forms of the 20th century. We oppose racism in all its forms.
People are bombarded with information in the form of TV advertising. Vitamin C can be taken in capsule or tablet form. Vitamin C can be taken in capsule or tablet form.
A typical training program takes the form of a series of workshops.
The shadowy forms of the divers swimming below the boat.
The main staircase was in the form of a big S.
The female form is a thing of beauty.
Application forms are available from the college.
Just complete the entry form and return it.
Fill in the form and send it back with your cheque.
The distinction between form and content.
I have been greatly encouraged by the team's recent form.
On current form, he's one of the top 3 players in the country.
He's been in good form all this season.
He had no qualms about dropping players he thought were off form.
Examinations taken in the 4th form.
It used to be considered bad form to talk about money. The precise form of words has been agreed by the 12 heads of government.
Michelle was in great form at last week's conference.
The womb represents the very first place in which life takes form.
As the men worked, I watched the ship's hull take form.
The winning party will form the government.
CARE was formed in 1946 and helps the poor in 38 countries.
Love and trust should form the basis of a marriage.
The project forms part of a larger project investigating the history of the cinema.
The river formed a natural boundary between the 2 countries.
The rocks were formed more than 4,000 million years ago. By midnight, ice was already forming on the roads. By midnight, ice was already forming on the roads.
Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide combine to form acid rain. Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide combine to form acid rain.
In English, the past tense of a verb is usually formed by adding ed.
Filmgoers began to form a line outside the cinema. Cut off the corners of the square to form a diamond. She seemed incapable of forming any relationships.
On returning to Boston, she formed a close friendship with her aunt.
She formed the opinion that one of the pupils was bullying the other.
Events in early childhood often help to form our personalities in later life.
Formal.
Formal.
Formal recognition of the Reformed Church.
A formal agreement between the countries.
There is no formal structure for negotiating pay increases.
Mr. Kelly has lodged a formal complaint against the police.
Over the years, teaching methods have changed and become less formal.
Yours sincerely is a formal way of ending a letter.
I've met her twice, but only on formal occasions.
A formal dinner.
We insist on formal dress for dinner.
Knowledge and wisdom gained from experience rather than from formal education. The course includes formal lectures.
The palace's beautifully restored formal gardens.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Frogs preserved in formaldehyde.
Formalize.
Formalize.
Formalism.
Formalism.
Formality.
Formality.
The formalities necessary for a valid marriage.
Getting a gun license here seems to be just a formality.
There is always some degree of formality when one speaks to a stranger.
The loan was arranged with little formality.
Formalize.
Formalize.
Final arrangements for the takeover have yet to be formalized.
Formally.
Formally.
We announced a decision formally recognizing the new government.
He put his hand out formally, and Liza took it.
I apologize, Captain, she said formally.
Format.
Format.
The courses were run to a consistent format.
A large format book for the partially sighted. Better ways to format your spreadsheets.
Formation.
Formation.
The formation of a new government. The substances which lead to the formation of ozone. We now know a lot more about the early stages of planetary formation.
Troop formations.
A squadron of aircraft flying in formation.
The canyon's impressive rock formations. Marx founded a new science, the science of the history of social formations. Formative.
Formative.
He exposed his children to music throughout their formative years. He exposed his children to music throughout their formative years.
International politics were a formative influence on the party.
Former.
Former.
The former Soviet Union.
Their farm has been reduced to half its former size.
My former husband.
Former President Clinton.
She seems more like her former self.
The team's a shadow of its former self.
Of the two possibilities, the former seems more likely.
Formerly.
Formerly.
Kiribati, formerly known as the Gilbert Islands. Kiribati, formerly known as the Gilbert Islands.
This elegant hotel was formerly a castle. This elegant hotel was formerly a castle.
Formica.
Formica.